Okay, so today I'm going to discuss a very important topic, and this is actually a guide regarding installation of Ubuntu 20.04 on and dual booting it with Windows on your existing laptop or any PC in general. If you want to dual boot it, this is the final A to Z guide for dual booting any Linux distro with Windows. So as you can see here, today is April 23rd, and as of today I'm recording, it's April 23rd in the region where it's released. In India it's now April 24th today. So Ubuntu 20.04 is released finally, and it's the most awaited update for Ubuntu, and it's bringing a huge ton of changes regarding visual and also on the internals. So you can upgrade from 18.04 to 19. Or 19.10 to 20.04 seamlessly, because from that time onwards they were running genome desktop environment, so all of the native apps and many other things should be fine and compatible. So if you are already running Ubuntu 18.04 or 19.10, so you will get this update option. But if you are running an earlier version like 16.04 or 14.04, so those were also LTS, and you want to just upgrade your system overall, so you need to clean install your system. Refer to my previous video where I showed you how to make backups on Ubuntu. So these backups will be helpful for you, because otherwise you will lose your data during the installation process. So on Ubuntu, this 20.04 system, Python 3 will be by default there, and also the official store app from which you download, like the app store, it will be the Snap store, not the Genome Software Center. So this will be their modified version. Then there's this changes for libvirt, dpdk, OpenSwitch, Cronny, and much more. You can just read along the changes page. Links will be in the download description section below, so don't worry about the links. And you just click here on download option, or you can choose any alternative downloads. So here, if you want, you can contribute to the community projects. Any download should start now. I have already downloaded it, so I won't bother to download it again. The download size is approx 2.5 gigs. So if you don't have like a unlimited connection, do go for this torrent link. There's also various CD mirrors, like you can choose servers which are nearer to you for faster download speeds and whatnot. There's also like Ubuntu flavors down here somewhere. Where is it? Should be, oh yeah, got it. Ubuntu flavors, yeah. So you have like Ubuntu Kubuntu, Lubuntu, Ubuntu Budgie, Ubuntu Kylin. Kylin is for this Chinese variant of Ubuntu. And there's Ubuntu Mate, Ubuntu Studio, and Xubuntu. These names are funny, yeah. So what to do? They just named it like that. I mean, like Kubuntu is the KDE variant, Lubuntu is the LXD variant, and all. So you can see here I have already downloaded my ISO, and it's actually a zip file, so you don't need to extract it. It's a mounted CD image. So let me just show you another one important thing. If you are on Windows or anything else, you can use a software called Balena Etcher. So links will be in the download below, the description section below. Links to, what am I saying, I mean links to the download will be in the description below, so check it out. I'm here. I've already downloaded this file, so I'm just not going to download it again. So what do they call you? They call it Windows apps, yeah. So it's been a long time I have opened Windows. So just open this Balena Etcher, then insert your pen drive into your machine and see my this device is recognized. Now I already have a Linux distro in it from previous builds, so that's not issue. Just browse and find your ISO file. Where is it? Yeah, here it is there. So just then on settings here you can see that it will be like format your drive and all, so everything from your drive will be lost instantly. So just it will start, just cancel this, no need to worry about this at all. So what it actually does is create Linux partitions in your pen drive and copy the contents of the ISO over to the your pen drive or flash drive or whatever you use, if you use any other medium like what else, USB-C pen drives or anything like CD DVDs. Who use CD DVDs in 2020? I mean, yeah, if you like you can use CD DVDs also. Just burn that ISO into the CD DVD and it will be good to go. So I'm just showing here with pen drives because nowadays most of the modern laptops or desktops also don't come with CD DVDs drivers also, CD DVD players. So there's that. Now it should take like what, 30 seconds more. Yeah, now I'm using a USB 3.0 pen drive, so if you're using USB-C it will be much faster. So there's that. Now this is the most awaited version of Ubuntu, as I told earlier. So if you are from another LTS version you will see drastic changes. Even if you are from 19.10 you will see many changes in this build. So just bear it that many things will be new to you. So it's completed and I'm closing this here. We also don't need that. Now I'm telling you to how to manually repartition your drive to free up some space for the Ubuntu install. You don't need this if you don't have an Ubuntu partition or any other Linux partition currently. Now I have already a 100 gigs partition for my Linux Ubuntu installation and my data which is stored in like rest 800 gigs of storage. So this is completely optional step, but I'm showing you here because you will know in a second that I also get across some errors while doing this. So to address all the errors a user might face, this is the ultimate guide I'm making. So yeah, and one more thing, if you want the hibernate option in your Linux machine, you should go for this issue. You should go for this type of partition management, else you won't get the hibernate feature in Linux, because the swap file they make by default is 2 gigs and is very low for your system to go into hibernate with that small file system. Now I want to just put aside 150 gigs of storage, but as you can see here it doesn't allow me because the drive I am partitioning here is a mechanical drive and mechanical hard drive. So in mechanical hard drives files are scattered in some other places, and without a proper defragmentation you cannot free up space from just like anywhere else. That will be risky and might cause in data loss. So I don't actually have too much data on this drive and maybe some games, 2 or 3. So I'm just showing you, if you have like important data and want to safely this repartition your drive, just open this optimize drive and utility, click on optimize disk defragmentation. Actually we are going to do a complete defragmentation, so it should take a few minutes time, actually longer time, but it's worth it because you can then repartition your drive freely. Now in my case, I am recording this voice over later than recording after I have recorded the screen capture, so I know that it will ultimately fail. In my case, defragmentation occurs 100%, it's correct, but the ultimately, since it was taking very much longer time, I just cancelled it midway, so it doesn't cause it any data issues, data loss issues, but ultimately also it doesn't allow me to reallocate the space. Maybe a restart is required or whatnot, so I have not went through all of that hassle to just defragment it again and again. So if you want, you can just do with this utility. I also used one third-party utility called AOMEI Partition Assistant. So I found that utility to be good for me. So if you want to, you can just use that utility. I will be using that utility within a few minutes. Timestamp will be popping up on your screen to skip to that moment where this finishes. Many people have complaints regarding these types of guides, that the creator skips few parts and then they experience some bugs along the way, which they can't fix on their own because they are new to Linux and all. So for this reason, I am not skipping any part, but timestamps will be given. If you want to skip a part, just skip ahead. And this whole disk partitioning process is not required on modern distros installation like Ubuntu and all, because they have already an option like install Ubuntu alongside Windows. So in that option, you can just resize there from a GUI utility will be there, from which you can just resize your partition, resize your existing drive based upon its free space, and will automatically create your root partition only. Root partition and maybe a boot partition, just a 500 megs boot partition, as you have seen earlier in this video. I will also show next after this process completes, like it has a boot partition and a root partition, and swap partition is not there by default. Instead, Ubuntu uses a swap file, which is a dynamic drive, virtual drive of sort. So it has a maximum capacity of 2 gigs, which is not enough to uh, put your whole system in hibernate mode. So hibernate option will be disabled if you opt for the easy method of installation, because uh, it doesn't allocate that much swap file or swap partition. Now what I am going to do will enable this feature also and many other features, because swap partition is required and is very much essential. Because with this swap partition, if you say like doing any nighttime copying job or overnight some job, like running some tasks like video rendering or editing or like machine learning related something or anything like, or even downloading something. So if your computer is sitting idle for nearly few minutes, what this automatic system management does is just packs up your unnecessary data, which was as a residue file from your running applications, and put them in the swap directory or swap file in Ubuntu. uh, what this allows us is, the next time you open this app, it will launch instantly, because it doesn't need to search your whole hard drive for where that file is located. So it enhances the speed practically, not theoretically, because if you are having mechanical hard drive, you need to, that the mechanical hard drive needs to actually move to that location or disk sector to find this. So speed compared to SSD will be small, negligible, but if you are using a hard disk drive, it will be significantly better than SSDs. So SSD will still be faster, but using swap file on a HDD is much preferred. So Here you can see it is taking much more time. So just go into this UMEI partition assistant. I'm just going to download it just now on screen in front of everyone of you. The free version will suit just fine for our needs right now. We don't need to do much intense works with this, so it should be downloaded just right now. And this is still on what, 80% or 81%? Yeah. So let's just wait a bit, 7 seconds or what, 10 seconds it will require for partition assistant to be uh, finished downloading. So I'm just going to install this EOMEI partition assistant. Links will be provided in the description down below. So let me just install it, close that, and you can see it's sort of like completing. In the meantime, I'm just installing. Okay, so should I click on finish? Let's. Okay. So its defragmentation is done. Now it's just maybe checking for something. So I'm just going to stop it right here, and let's check that whether defragmentation has any benefit over it or not. So as you can see, it's telling me 0% fragmented, but it's not the truth. The truth is something different than this. I still have some defragmentation over the fragmentation over the disk. So as you can see here, let me shrink the volume. You can see size available to shrink 25 gigs. No, that much we can't shrink only. So let me open up AOMEI partition assistant, and you can see my disks are here, everything is here. And on disk 2 you can see 2 star marked partition. Those are the Linux partition, the Linux boot drive, and the my 100 gigs Linux partition. So I'm just going to here resize partition and just reduce it like 150 gigs, because I need like 250 gigs for my work. The size depends upon your own choice. I recommend a minimum of 100 gigs or 120 gigs, because I was running 100 gigs previously and had no issues regarding this. But if you're doing like Android builds or something like that, you need a bit more space than like, because the Android source code is will take approx 70 gigs of space. So for this reason actually I am also dual booting, so thought I would make a video explaining to every one of you how this is done exactly. Now I'm just going to input the value here, and you can see this now, and you can see that this is done. Where's the changes? There should be a changes menu. I haven't used this for many years, like I haven't used this utility for a long time. So why is it showing me 838? Maybe it's not done properly. It should show us that 838 to 638 or like that. So I'm just going to discard, and again let me repeat the process. There are other options which are available for the premium version, but we are not going to that. So let me just input it again. What was it? 688. Okay, so it's 688. Pressing enter. there are also another options, yeah, okay. So allocate space before this partition, allocate space after this partition, it will reduce this value also, so no need to for that. Just press on enter and you can see here unallocated this much space. And now if I just apply that, what's this, shift partition, no need. So if we just now apply this, and you can see here now it's 838 to 688 gigs, so that means 150 gigs is will be my free space. Now here's two modes you can see, restarting to pre-OS mode and restarting to Windows PE mode. Now this pre-OS mode is for RAID configured hard drive. If you have any RAID configured, if you have no idea about this, leave this setting as it is and restart into Windows PE mode, portable edition actually. It just injects some files into the Windows bootloader so that next time your Windows boots, uh, it will boot into this AOMEI utility, not to your Windows. So I have just switched to my mobile camera because I don't have a dedicated external camera to go with it. And number two, you cannot record the boot up process during your BIOS and all through any recording software like OBS. So as you can see here, this is creating partitions, and what's it doing? So this process might take some time, so just I'm might skip here. So yes, no, okay, so it's rebooting now. Done. So it will reboot now, and since I already have a dual boot, I will have group bootloader. You won't have this bootloader, just boot into Windows directly normally if you are not dual booting already. If you are dual booting already, just boot to your Windows bootloader, and you can see here instead of launching Windows, it will launch AOMEI partition assistant as the Windows. You selected Windows PE mode, so it injected some files or core components to run this AOMEI utility in your bootloader. Now this process will take few minutes. I have just skipped ahead, and now it will show you the restart option. Click on restart, and now here comes the main deal. There's no going back from this. Since your partition is changed, grub is no longer able to find out your Linux partition and any boot partition. So you have just booted into the grub rescue mode. So if you are not having any other external drive, just plug in your pen drive which you created earlier and boot directly from it. Or like me, here I am pressing escape, bashing my escape key on my keyboard so that I boot into the boot device selector. For every laptop it will be different, so or every hard motherboard it will be different. You can just google it for your motherboard version, like how to get into BIOS or selecting boot device. Now I have just booted into Windows to check that everything is correct or not. You don't need to boot into Windows. This step is completely optional, just to make sure. I'm just showing you that my disk size is shrinked and everything is okay. So if you don't have a grub bootloader, you might not these kinds of problem might not occur. But if you're already dual booting, this problem will and surely occur, because grub will be confused like from where to boot. Windows bootloader might also break. I don't know, because I don't have Windows bootloader. So I have Windows bootloader, but it's on another drive, so which I selected by bashing the escape key. So you can't actually, because you won't if your only bootloader breaks, there will be no place to fix this. So if you wanna, if you can't fix that, just insert your pen drive and then restart your PC and boot from the pen drive directly. So as you can see, my pen drive is connected. I'm going to restart now, clicking on restart. Here's restart and it's restarting. So now I'm bashing my escape key. For my motherboard of Asus, is escape key to select the boot device chooser utility, something like that. So you can see here UEFI multiple card reader. That's my that's the new device, my pen drive. So I'm just clicking on here and you can see it started to boot. Let me just adjust the focus of the camera. So what's happening? Yeah, so as you can see here, first option is Ubuntu, second option is Ubuntu save graphics, OEM install, boot from next volume, and other options. So only Nvidia graphics card users have to use this line. Like press E, selecting the Ubuntu option, then go into this second line, and here just at quiet type no mode set. It will disable the no view graphics which is present by default in Linux distributions. Now press on Ctrl X to boot, or F10, whatever you like. I am pressing here Ctrl X to boot. So what it does is basically all Linux distros have this proprietary driver for Nvidia called Novu. So Novu basically is very much old and doesn't compatible and is not compatible with Nvidia graphics card of nowadays. It is compatible fully with older generation graphics cards like GT 710 or that sort of graphics card or older, but nowadays it is not compatible with uh, our modern days graphics card. So it just disable the graphics card and boots you straight into it. If you don't disable it, your pen drive might not boot. It just it depends upon the compatibility of your graphics card. If you are lucky enough, you will boot. If you are not lucky, you won't boot. So it's upon luck. So better not go for luck and use this feature. I clicked just now on this try Ubuntu utility. You can just click on install Ubuntu, but I recommend try Ubuntu because it will give you much more flexibility and you can choose that whether you want to install or not. Like you can test drive Ubuntu, like buying a car. You can test drive a car before buying it and see that it suits your needs or not. Now don't go for the themes and visuals, because themes and visuals are tunable to even the smallest bits. If you don't like anything, just fork it, fork it. So you can change your custom CSS files and you can apply your own theme even. So that's you can customize literally everything. So here is the option, icon will be there to install Ubuntu. Double click on it and it will launch the Ubiquiti Ubuntu installer, same as one of my previous videos where I tested the beta version. Now you can click on continue, but I would recommend connecting to internet first, so that's why I am clicking on quit here. I'm now connecting to my Wi-Fi. I am using Wi-Fi, and this also checks that your Wi-Fi card is available or not. If you are using LAN connection, it will be connected automatically, no need any configuration unless you have a specific configuration method like static DHCPs and all. So let it connect. 1 minute. Yeah, so I am connected to my Wi-Fi, and let me just launch the install again. And you can see here, this is something new. If you are connected to internet, it will show up a message like to read the release notes. So here you can see your you can select your keyboard layout if you are from some different place. So it will you can select your own layout, but it's just good with my layout, so I'm just leaving it as it is. Now I recommend installing these third-party graphics drivers and other drivers because in laptops which I'm installing, in gaming laptops specifically, if you have like Nvidia graphics cards, then it will be really hard for you. Not on Ubuntu, it's just a utility is present there, like installing additional drivers. But if you are not on Ubuntu, like other Linux distros like Fedora and all, you need to just log out of your X11 session. Means you have to kill your graphical user interface and do the whole process from command line of installing Nvidia drivers, and those drivers are highly what to say, proprietary and not tested. So you will experience a ton load of bugs on the way. So uh, on the release notes, it was written that the latest Nvidia tested drivers, which are tested by the developers and everything works, are shipped within the ISO, and that's why your ISO size is so much big. It's 2 gigs, because earlier ISOs were like 1 to 2 gigs, and this is directly 2.5 gigs. So now we have this. Yeah, I was talking about this option earlier, install Ubuntu alongside Windows Boot Manager. I highly disagree with this option, because this option just removes many features like with the swap partition, and causes some system instability if you are working with large files, and if you have higher RAM like 16 gigs, or which I have 16 gigs or 32 gigs or much more than that, it will cause issues like you cannot dump your files on your swap partition and all. So these are all like higher level talks, not for beginners. Absolutely. So if you want to go for that, go for that, but I'm going to install my custom partitioning. So here I have selected my boot drive, so it is my SDB drive, and you can see here I have my free space, that's 150 gigs which I allocated earlier, and my existing Linux partition, that was the 100 gigs partition. Now in between them we have a boot partition, the previous boot partition, which I'm going to remove right now. And as you can see, the previous partition was done via that install Ubuntu alongside Windows option, so which resulted in creation of only two partitions, the root partition and the boot partition. That's why I don't recommend it. Now be careful while doing all of this, because you might end up removing everything from your computer. So if you don't know just how to name this, so keep an eye on the sizes and used spaces, just to make sure you don't remove anything unnecessary. So as you can see here, the first partition SDB1, it was my data partition, which has now 750 gigs of storage approx, with 300 gigs filled approximately. Now first I recommend first creating a root partition, then boot partition, or first boot then root, and finally the swap partition. So I am going to follow this convention. You can follow any other convention if you like. So here's that. So I'm just going to convert this megabytes to gigabytes. If you don't know this conversion, divide by 1024, so that's 255 gigs for me. So I'm just going to allot like 1 gig storage for my boot partition. 1024, 1 gig is enough, more than enough for your boot partition. Like the official version gives you like 500 megs, so 1 gig is huge for boot partition, of course. Like boot partition is few megabytes. So here I am setting it as boot. It will take few seconds to create this partition. So there's no coming back. Okay, if you are in this step right now, make sure your laptop is charged or your desktop has an alternate power supply, because in case power loss occurs, you need to do this whole process again, and it might result in some data corruption or data loss of your hard drive. So make sure no power loss or sudden power loss occurs. Like I am having a power cut right now, and thus my UPS is beeping crazy. So you can see here I have just created now I'm creating my root partition. I have left 25 gigs free space for the swap partition. It's actually a convention to means the swap partition should be a size more than your existing RAM size. So I have like 16 gigs of RAM. That's why I'm taking 25 gigs of swap partition as free the swap partition, because it is more than 16 gigs. Some people recommend using double of that, but I don't recommend using double of that. So I'm just leaving like what let's round it up. 600 is okay. So now I'm just going to just round it up to like 25 gigs approx, so it will be like 24 point something. It doesn't matter, it's approx that. So use that swap file. So now you can see that the swap partition is creating and all partitioning is done. Maybe it just takes a second. Yeah, okay, so done. Finally, just check everything is alright or not. We have our free space 600 megs at the end. I have just left this 600 megs because if I want to like shift my boot partition or something goes wrong with the boot partition, I can just fix it into here. So everything looks good, and three important partitions, root, boot and swap are ready. Now some people like prefer home partition as a separate partition. I don't actually need a home partition as a second as an other partition, because it's completely unnecessary, because I keep backup of my home partition, so it doesn't make any sense doing this whole thing again and again. If you have a separate home partition, just mount it as it is without formatting, it will work just fine. So installation might start right now. Okay, so first it it's automatically detected my location. I am in India. Just to make sure, I just click here again. So it's the time zone configuration, and here you have to input your details. Now many operating systems let you install your primary operating system without a password, but Linux doesn't allow you to install operating system without a password. So a password is mandatory in this case. So I'm just inputting every details as my previous installation media, because I'm going to restore my data and I just don't want to regenerate all the key files again, keygens or what pgp keys, etc. So, and here installation is started. So first it just copies files over, then it commences the installation. It creates some RAM disk or sorts to make the installation process faster now, and slowly and steadily it will commence the installation. So like almost finished copying files, so files are being copied and installing system. So here you go, it started installing. Now there's a skip option which is not yet available and will be available in a few minutes or seconds. It just there for you to skip the downloading of additional software, but I would recommend you not to skip this, because you are installing a stable LTS version and you need your system to be as stable as possible. So in here it will just search for any crucial updates or crucial drivers for your proprietary vendor hardware. Like I have my LED keyboard drivers there, the proprietary Wi-Fi drivers, the Nvidia graphics card drivers, and sound card also. Yeah, it also matters, the brightness control and everything else. So here it's showing me I need 1 minute to download the files, so it must be around 500 megs approx. Maximum it should take 500 megs, so don't worry about the download size. Get ready with internet connection if you are on a laptop, and as well have Nvidia graphics card. So Nvidia drivers are there inside this ISO, so you don't need to download the Nvidia ISO. I mean, the installer won't download the Nvidia ISO from the official sites. So there's that, and here you can see there's a slideshow of the features which you are going to get with this Ubuntu build. A detailed guide about the features and all are made in my previous video. So here I've just cut to the end of this, and here don't click on restart now option. You can click, but on Ubuntu 18.04 or 19.04 maybe there was a bug which if you click on restart now, it just restarts into a boot loop. So not to go into all that, I have just click on continue testing, and if you want you can just wander around here. Nothing will be saved, no modifications will be made. Or one thing more which I need to show you is that if I go into this about, you can see graphics card on here, it's LLVM pipe something. So this thing is showing that my graphics card is not detected. It's running off the built-in integrated Intel graphics card, which is Intel graphics, which is with the CPU, not the dedicated graphics card. So here now I'm just restarting it, and it will show you an alert signifying you to remove the pen drive from your system. So here you can see it's written, please remove the installation media. So I'm just unplugging my pen drive and pressing on enter. So you should do the same, and here it's restarting again, and it should be booted up in any minute. Okay, so this, yeah, so the grub bootloader is there. If you are dual booting you will see this grub bootloader, but if you are single booting you won't see this grub bootloader. You will just directly boot into Ubuntu. So now Ubuntu with Ubuntu 20.04 they have patched this bootloader with like showing your OEM logo, like Asus is there, Ubuntu is there. On previous versions this kind of boot up screen was not there. It has just an ugly pink shade. I'm sorry but it was ugly for me. If you want you can roast me in the comments as you like. So it's just checking file systems. Maybe it's the first time after boot it will check for the file systems. After that maybe not. So let's just see what happens. And if you are sticking up to this long, you might as well just hit a like button. Hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and click on the bell notification down there. It helps with a lot. Comment down below if you have any queries, and with it your installation of Ubuntu is finally complete. Your Windows is also there if you want to dual boot. Now many people will like roast me that why I keep dual booting, why I don't use like Ubuntu only, because most of my workflow is with Ubuntu. So the harsh truth is that I am a student after all, and I love playing games. So once in a week or once in a month, if I get a few hours of time, I like to play games. And sadly the gaming on Linux is still far behind what you can experience on Windows. So that's the harsh truth. So if you also love gaming somewhat and have a graphics card, now if you don't have a graphics card, you might as well remove Windows. If I had no graphics card, dedicated graphics card, I would have removed Windows, because non-graphical games run just fine on Lutris or Play on Linux or this Proton API. They work just fine. Just the modern AAA titles don't run quite well. So there's that. Another thing why I keep Windows is that, for example, editing this video, I am used to Adobe Premiere Pro, and like switching from this to KDN Live seems much more less featureless to me, on compared to this Adobe Premiere Pro. I could have used like DaVinci Resolve and all. There are many other alternatives, like open source alternatives, but what to do? I am just used to this. Slowly, I am merging like towards this open source and Linux softwares, but until then, I need to get this. Now you can see here. You just need to do a quick update of like sudo apt get update, which was there on the previous. So now another important thing is that search for these additional drivers and check whether you have the latest Nvidia drivers or not. If for some reason, you don't have this driver, don't use it. Click on that and click on apply. It will just download. Now it's showing me my wireless AC, that Wi-Fi card is not working, but it's working fine as I am connected to the internet. So bummer, that's a bug or any new issue. Now I am not sticking up to this LTS version, so I am just changing my update channel to for any new version. You can just stick with LTS if you want. So server for India, now I don't know that server for India is fully functional or not, so I'm just shifting to server for main server. So that's why I'm just shifting to the main server, because I don't know that other servers or regional servers will get as fast updates as the main server. Maybe I'm wrong, but anyways, I'm just switching to the main server. So it just reloads your software cache upon exit. Software cache is like the storage place which has like an index page, like your book has an index page. So software cache has like a list of all softwares available and updates, if any available. So there's that. So it's loaded now. What to do? Oh, I've just connected my second display just to check that whether uh, this is working or not. So as you can see here, Nvidia Corporation, my graphics card is detected successfully, as well as everything is detected. So this is the software panel. Feel free to explore this all and find everything. You can just type X by pressing on the start menu or start button, because on Linux it's not called start, it's called super key in Ubuntu, and that's called the activities view or applications overview. So here my Nvidia is on performance mode, but it's somewhat different than the previous performance mode, because earlier on performance mode there used to be a dialog to there used to be some options to select everything. So here I'm just going to restart. Maybe this will fix the issues, or maybe I'm just wrong and this is just something. Now again, you can just use arrow keys to browse and boot to Windows. Let me just boot to Windows to make sure that Windows is also running. And Windows is okay. So Windows is still okay and fully functional. As you can see here, I have logged in to it, and you can see everything is good, everything is working fine, nothing is broken. Now I'm just going to restart it again. Now if on such a system, if you are trying to dual boot, every time you boot into Windows, don't press shutdown, because if you press shutdown, the next time you can't boot back to Ubuntu, or if you boot back to Ubuntu, your external hard drives or other partitions won't be detected. No, it will be detected, but you cannot write on them, because Windows has a feature like hybrid shutdown, it just saves the file history and like put some modification protection, something like that, on your that Windows partitions, so that they don't interfere with other operating systems. And this is what makes Windows startup times faster to load, because they don't actually properly shut down, they go into like hibernate. So this is the option which is also available in Ubuntu. If you use that first option, like install Ubuntu alongside Windows, you won't get this hibernate ability, but if you are following my method, you will get this hibernate ability. So just logging in. Now you can just if you just own your machine, you can just skip this login screen from by going to the settings. There's an option called automatic login on startup. So that is also a nifty feature. So now right now I have installed nothing here. As you can see, here's my drive, the data partition is also there. Now I'm going to restore from backups. So before restoring from backups, as I told in my previous video, I recommend everyone to make their drives auto mountable, so the drives automatically mount at system startup. So I like to just denote drives with their drive name letters. So I'm just changed it into label, or else you will get this long UUID which is hard to type and find. So there's that. Okay, so clicking on that blue link used to open Nautilus file manager by default, this right now in this build it doesn't work as well. So is this a bug or not, I don't know. So let me just restore it. Go into backups, then restore, local folder, then browse. I'm just going to browse my local folder. Where was my backup? So Linux, and here. So that's pretty much it. Now you have successfully dual booted your system with Ubuntu and Windows. I hope you like this video, and I'm still new to YouTube and all, so bear with me. English is not my primary language, so not my mother tongue, so I'm not maybe as fluent in English, but I'm preparing this video in English because my audience might be around this whole world. Now I'm making this guide for people who are new to Linux and want to install Linux, but are is somewhat scared that they will just dive right into the Linux paradigm, or the trap, some people may refer it. So for that reason I'm just making these guides such that people don't fall for all of this. And there's also, you can just remove your favorites. Now I am seeing here a new option called launch using dedicated graphics card. So might be you can launch with your graphics card. I need to test my battery life on this build. It doesn't have this undervolting and all. I will make guides on how to undervolt and all in future. So undervolting your laptop increases your battery life. Like on my 19.10 I got like 1 hour extra battery life just by undervolting. So peace.